So I'm going to show you how to make some hardtack candy. Candy is really easy to make, but nobody really knows how anymore. So basically you need Caro syrup, which I have here, 2/3 of a cup. You need 3/4 cup of water, and you need 2 cups of sugar. You also need some powdered sugar at the end, which I don't have out yet. It makes it much easier if you have a candy thermometer. I have made it many years without a candy thermometer, going by the different stages, the hard crack and the soft ball and the hard ball and all of that. It's very easy to do. That's what they used to do before we had fancy thermometers. Now the thing with the thermometer, you will scorch your candy mixture if you don't have it placed properly. And you could be making it batch after batch thinking, why isn't working it out? Why isn't it working out? It's because when you turn this around, you have this gap here. It looks, when it's sitting properly and it's hooked onto the side, okay, it looks like it's touching the bottom because you can't see where it ends. But it's actually only way up here. So it has to get all the way up here before it gives you an accurate temperature. Down here, it's actually scorching, and it flavors the candy. It gives you a burnt flavor. So what you want to do is make sure that your pan is small enough that the liquid that's in here that's boiling and getting thicker and thicker and thicker and turning into candy is actually up at least around here or here, so that the tip of it is reading properly. And then your thermometer is going to come all the way up here, and you're going to go past the softball stage, the hardball stage, all of this until you get to 300. Now I'll tell you, once you're about here, it goes from here to here in the blink of an eye, so you really have to watch it carefully or it's going to scorch. You'll notice that it starts to get slightly brown or caramel colored when it's starting to scorch. Just remove it from the heat and it immediately starts cooling down. So the way to properly do this is this slides up and down. You can get it to go up and down. You're going to hook it on here, and then you're going to push it all the way to the bottom. Now when you push it to the bottom, it's down there. I let go and look, you have wiggle room. You can push it down a little bit more because it's at that angle. So that's a candy thermometer. They run anywhere from, like, I think you can get them on sale for $10 and they're normally $20. But you can also do a lot more with this, like McDonald's. You know, you get your oil temperature really regulated there, so you get the golden brown. You can do a lot of different things with it other than candy. Okay, so to mix up your syrup that will turn into the candy, it's 2 cups of sugar, 2/3 cup Caro syrup, okay, so I have the corn syrup in here. I had to stop the video because my boys are working on the car today and they came in to tell me how it was going. Here's 3/4 cups of water. Now the problem with making hard candy is that you end up with little crystals of sugar along the outside here. And when you have that, it can actually, during the boiling process, it can actually turn the whole thing into like a crystallized candy. Which, I mean, you can still eat and everything, but the texture is a little off and people are a little put off by it. We've done that before and it wasn't an issue. So what you do for that is, first I'm trying to get all this mixed in. But you can kind of see the crystals along the edge here. I don't know if that shows up on the camera. And what you do is you just get water. I don't have any water, hang on. You get water and you get some kind of a brush. Any kind of brush works. And then you just go like this and you paint along the side, and all of the crystals dissolve or they get washed down inside. You do this several times during the cooking process and then you don't have an issue. The other thing you can do is to put a lid on it for about 30 seconds and the steam builds up and washes the sides down. That works, but sometimes it can interfere with the heating process and you can end up it doesn't dehydrate as much as it should, and it can overheat in those 30 seconds, so I usually just use the brush method. Okay, so now I've got to get this onto the stove and place my thermometer. Okay, so now I'm going to put my thermometer in here and get it all the way to the bottom, and it's leaning out. And as you can see, it's just barely above the end of that thermometer right there. Now as it starts boiling, the boiling bubbles come up a little bit higher, so it'll be perfect. But if I'd used a larger pan that would have ended up being more shallow with my liquid, I would have had a major problem and burned this candy. So always try and use a small one. You want a small one, but you don't want one that's really short because the bubbles will come all the way up to about here. So it needs to have some headspace as it's cooking. I do have the heat on. You can hear it starting to sizzle a little bit. So I'm going to take my brush and wash down the sides because I see a lot of crystals over here, sugar crystals. I don't go into the mixture, I just go above. Oh yes, lots of crystals right here. If I accidentally touch the sugar mixture, I just rinse it off in this water and it's fine. I'll scoot that around so I can get behind it. There shouldn't be any crystals on this side. Go around to the other side. Once it starts to boil, you do not mix it. If you mix it, it gets superheated in some areas and not heated enough in others. It causes all kinds of issues and it doesn't turn out very well. It won't separate well. Sometimes it's soft and chewy instead of being hard and crunchy. So there we go. So now I'll just gently stir it until it comes to a boil and we'll let it do its thing. After it comes to a boil and it reaches 300 degrees, I turn off the heat. I let it come down to 265 degrees and then I add my flavoring. If you add it before it reaches 265 or 260, it can burn the flavoring and then you have a icky flavor too. And the essential oils basically get vaporized. So you want it to come down to 265 is the recipe. I've done it at 260. Both work very well. You add in the essential oils. Usually it's 20 drops. Sometimes I go up to 40 drops. Some essential oils, the flavor just isn't as strong. This batch will be clove, and I'll use essential oils. So this could be used as regular candy, or it could be medicinal for cough drops, sore throat, allergies, anything that clove will help with. The next batch will be banana cream because I have a son who's requested that. And that is actually a candy flavoring, and you get it from Loran. You can order it on Amazon or you can go straight to their website. They have something like 150 different flavors you can choose from. It takes about a teaspoon and a half of the flavoring. If you want it to be sour candy, you add the citric acid to it, and I have that as well. So I won't add that to the banana, but I added that to the peach I made a couple weeks ago, and it was really, really good. So we'll just let this start heating up and do its thing, and we'll come back when it's bubbling. So it's just now starting to bubble and boil. It's still very liquidy, watery. It's going to start getting thicker. It's dehydrating slowly with each bubble that pops. And the temperature is going to start going up. Right now it's at about 210, 220, somewhere around there. You can see how the bubbles have actually made the liquid go up higher on the thermometer. So the end of it is definitely under the liquid at this point. So right now we're at 270 degrees and you can see it's thicker. The bubbles are, they're staying more, they're not popping as quickly and they're getting bigger. We've got sort of a sugary, thick syrup here. It's actually getting really thick, which is perfect. The color has changed too. Instead of completely clear, it's now got the slightest amber color to it. So all of this lets you know that it's starting to get very close to being ready. We've only got 30 degrees left, and it's going to shoot up pretty quick here. Like within 2 or 3 minutes, it'll suddenly be at 300. So I'm going to watch it real closely. So I wanted to show you a trick too if your thermometer is too short or you're worried, because it's starting to get quite amber for me, and I'm a little worried that we're not picking up the right temp. So you just lean it back slightly over the burner until the bottom of the thermometer is completely covered. And you let it sit here for about a minute, and yes, the temperature is definitely creeping up. We're at 290 already. And we're past 290, so I'm going to probably turn this off because it's probably at 300 or more just based on the color alone. Yep, we're at 300. So off it goes. And now I'm going to put it on a hot pad and get it away from the heat completely. Okay, so here we are. I took it off. It's on a hot pad. We are now down to 280, and it's falling quickly. I wanted to show you kind of the consistency here. You can see it's thick but still pourable. It's because of the heat. It is super, super hot. If you're making candy, no kids around, because if they bump you, this is like having hot tar on you. It's very, very, very hot. Now we're at 264-ish, so I'm going to go ahead and take out my thermometer here. Get all that yummy stuff off. And I'm going to give it a swirl or two, cool it down just a little more. And I already pre-measured my clove essential oil. There's 30 drops in here. That's what you want. You don't want it to steam up in your face. If it steams up in your face, it's too hot and you've lost all of your flavor. So now I'm going to mix this quickly. Now it's steaming, and oh, it smells amazing. And it's quite potent too. Okay, mixing that around. I already pre-buttered a pizza pan. I like the round ones. I don't know why. I think they're easier to use my pizza cutter on. So let me move this over. And here's my pizza pan with the butter on it. You got it too, huh, Mary? Okay, so I'm just going to pour it directly on. You don't have very much time to get all this candy out, because as soon as the pan cools a little bit, it starts to harden. So I always try and focus on that first to get as much. You can see there's still some in there. I don't know if I can get it out. Clove candy is also really good for anyone who has a sore in their mouth, a cut, they've had a tooth extraction, anything that needs to be numbed, like not a little kid, but an older child who's lost a tooth. Clove is a natural analgesic, so it numbs the tissues, whether it's on your skin or in your mouth. Okay, that's about as much as I'm going to get there. Let's put that aside. And now I'm going to put it back on my hot pad here so that I don't hurt my counter. And then it just sits here and cools enough to where I can cut it. Not cut it, but score it. And then when I bang it, it'll break apart. But it's still very hot. You can see it's just moving fluidly right now. And we need that to stop. Okay, so it cooled down super quick, and what I'm looking for is where it's dentable like that, so I can use, whoop, it's already too cold on the edges. I'm just going to score it as fast as I can, because I turned some fans on. It's hot here today, and it's cooled my candy a lot. So, and you'll see how this works in a minute. There's one way, and I'll score it quickly the other way, so I have little bites You don't have to do this. You can also just let it cool down enough and then flip it upside down on some powdered sugar on the counter. Like, you know, if you were going to roll out dough, you're going to put powdered sugar there. And when you go to break it up, you just have bigger pieces. This lets you have like squares or rectangles, diagonals, whatever you want to put out there. But you can see how quickly it can and does harden. So now I'll put out some powdered sugar all around. The powdered sugar is what keeps it from sticking to itself. Let's get it started here. Here we come, coming off in a sheet. You can see the center is still pretty warm. Have our, and you can see it was starting to get, like I caught it right before it got too hot there. It was just starting to turn amber. It shouldn't normally be that color, just a little bit lighter than this. But now we just break them up, pull them apart. I let it cool a little bit more, it'll just fall apart, so I'll do that. But in the meantime, I'll go ahead and sprinkle some powdered sugar all over it. Get powdered sugar on these. And I already tasted some of this from the pot, and it made my tongue numb almost immediately. It was wonderful, so good. My kids came in from outside and they started coughing because of the fumes. This is what you want, about that size, because it goes over your tongue and it can fit into the palate of your mouth, and you can just sit there and suck on it. Alright, I'm being impatient. I will have to wait until it cools a little more. Okay, so I wanted to show you the difference between the two sides. You can see this is sticking really well because this is the side that had the butter on it. This side was the top side, and I scored it, and it doesn't have the butter on it. It doesn't really matter as long as you can get, you know, powdered sugar on some of this. So, here we go. It's cooled off enough. You can hear the crack. I'll turn it over so you can see the lines. And you just break it up into bite-sized pieces. I like to put it in the powdered sugar. I was going to say flour. Powdered sugar, and then I pop them into a jar, and it goes into the refrigerator. And then I just do more. It's very easy. This is really good for sore throats, for bronchitis, for anything where you want to numb. It's also an antiviral, so you know, this kind of candy is good for you. Let's put it that way. And it's very easy to make. So you could make one batch and it's good for your whole family for a couple weeks. And just coat it. You can also fill up the jar with powdered sugar too. For this, I would put in a moisture absorber if you have them. If not, it's not a big deal. Just keep it cold. Sometimes as you open and close, you get more moisture in there and it may start to stick together. If you just bang it a little bit, they come apart. I made peach about, I don't know, a month ago, 6 weeks ago, and I put it in a Ziploc baggie because all my canning jars were being used at the time. And over about 3 weeks, I noticed that the edges were poking holes and the candy was starting to get kind of moist. And so now it's going to go into a canning jar with a little extra powdered sugar. But you can see it comes right apart where you've scored it. That's kind of the easiest way to do it. The other way is just to let it pour into a slab. You pull it out, let it cool, and then you just drop it and it shatters into all different size pieces. I'll do that with the next one, the banana cream, so you can see what that looks like when it's finished. Mix it up.
Can I have one?
Yes, you may. Your tongue will get numb. It's Clove. I mean, that is so easy. And for people who haven't had a treat in a while, you know, if there's food shortages, if they don't have food, you know, a piece of candy, a couple pieces of candy, different flavors, that's a huge pick-me-up. That will go a long way. And again, with kids are always the first ones that feel the hardship because they don't get the treats that they're used to. And this is a very easy way to do it. And it's just corn syrup, sugar, water, and then whatever flavoring you have. You could even do vanilla. You can do whatever you have on hand. I'll make another video on how to make peanut butter candy, potato candy, some other candies. That doesn't even require cooking. It's super simple, but it makes an enormous amount, so be ready to share it with other people. A little jagged there, so that's why I said just be careful. Don't give it to really little kids, obviously. And we have it all crunched up. So put a moisture absorber in here if you have one. If not, don't worry about it. Just expect it to get a little bit stuck together the more you open the jar. And I think that's all of it. And I'm going to put some extra sugar in there. That'll filter down. And there we have it. Mix a whole quart, looks like. So on to the banana cream.